What's up, everybody? This is your girl Erica from the Classy Climb blog. I'm coming to you guys today because the streets is hot, literally. so I uh, I brought on two guests that are coming on to bring their expertise on their cities, reflect up their thought process, and they're just two men that I think have great conversation. Today, I have with me right now Mr. Diamond Dave. Mr. Teach You How to Make 2 grand a month off options. I hope you guys are checking out his channel. He's dropping great content. And today's topic, we're talking about a couple of rappers in Atlanta, but we're also talking about the nationwide crime wave that we're experiencing. So before we get into that, Diamond Dave, please introduce yourself.
So how you doing? I'm really glad to be back here on the channel, Erica. My name is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave. I'm the founder of the highest paid part-time job in the world option training academy, and just really glad to come here on this Saturday, help contribute to the channel, try to add massive value and get people to get a better understanding of kind of like what's going on in the world and where we think trends are starting to go.
For sure, for sure. So, you guys, before we dive deeply, Mr.
There we go.
Barry White himself, Mr. Voiceover Professional,
What up, people? How y'all doing?
Mr.
Doing
Kitchen,
good.
what is it? Kitchen stove installer from yesterday. Thank you. Your wife is like, thank you. Got a
And you
man
know
knows how to
what?
install
Them
something.
jokers still ain't came to get that stove yet. So I'm about to go show my whole tail out there later today.
You sure you don't want to put it on the curve? Because the Hispanic crew will get it for you today.
They will, but that thing heavy. And
Okay, I got you. I
I
feel you.
can't
I
be
feel you.
using my muscles like that.
I feel you. Listen, I tell the people all the time, these are fake muscles. I don't. They just stuff. I'm wearing a stuffed shirt. These are fake muscles. So let me introduce you before I do on my diatribe. This is Mr. Ellis. Mr. Ellis is out of Philly. So I wanted to bring you guys someone that had the experience of Atlanta and Florida, and somebody out of Philly because East Coast is hot. I know y'all think West Coast out here just Asian gangs and everything, but East Coast up at the 95 is hot.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and let Mr. Ellis introduce himself.
Well, y'all know me already. I'm here hanging out with Eric all the time. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kamari Ellis. I'm a tax accountant for my financial advisor, but someone who has a overall love and appreciation for Black culture. And so wanted to talk with Erica today to talk about this new hotness in the street and how I feel that this could create another new slavery situation.
Right. So I'm gonna give a little 2 minute. I'm gonna try to keep it short, y'all. Diatribe of what I surmise, and then I'm gonna break out some articles and let the gentleman here inform me on their perspectives because I think it's valuable. So here's my short thoughts on what I'm seeing. Folks are moving around because of the cost of living, taxes going up, uh, opportunity. There's two different crimes: opportunity crime and real crime. So let's categorize that. Now what I'm really seeing is, hey, defund the police, right? A lot of our white and everybody else counterpart were like, hey, y'all wilding out on these videos, police need to chill out. So it kind of gave this pushback to the old, like, the good guy narrative, right? And so all of a sudden we have a crime wave. Now, instead of saying we're in a recession. And when we're in a recession as a country, certain communities are in a depression, right? And opportunity crime and uh, what I would call poor man crimes pick up in that type of scenario. So we focus on saying, instead of saying talking about recession, we're like, it's a crime wave. It's a crime wave. Because if we had to talk about recession, we'd have to start talking about people needing to be trained, job training. This is what came out of when they talked about the opiate crisis. They deployed nonprofits, job training. We got to get these coalmen and these people working in the mountains into different types of jobs. So you have to be very key and listen to the wording, right? They already told you prisons are at a 10-year low as far as being full. They've already told you that white women going to jail went up 50%. And the most of the cases is drug trafficking, it's sexual crimes, and murder. So that's not what they want to hear. Wait, 50% increase in white women? No, black women are doing all this crime. No. 50% increase in white women going to jail in the past 5 years. So I already told y'all when Donald Trump was in office, they had this big wave to turn opiate crime and, hey, we're not going to arrest these people. We're going to get them in job training. We're going to get them in the rehab centers. But look at the wording when you use the word crime wave. Crime wave, people are like, okay, well, lock them up. Lock everybody up. And I want y'all to pay attention because everything we're seeing is the markings of a recession/depression. And that's why I have such a pushback on like everybody going, yeah, this is good for Atlanta. Clean the crime up. I'm like, Atlanta needs job training. So, anyways, you guys, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this article up. And Kamari, if you could have your contact information, make sure you give that to me again. I'll put it in the chat. Maybe I misplaced it
Sure,
or
you can
it's not
find
in
me,
there.
the Finance Rebel, on YouTube, or you can always email me, which is kamari@phillytaxteam.com.
Now, when people come into the chat, you're gonna be like, well, how do we know what the charges are? So I'm gonna just give a brief surmise here, because that was my little 2-minute diatribe. I'm gonna give a brief surmise here because people don't understand what this means. Rapper Young Thugs, why is it spelled like this? Rico's Act charges explained. Okay. Let me go here. I'm gonna try to quickly. Anyway, he's arrested for criminal activity and conspiracy to violate the Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act. The 30-year-old, whose legal name is Jeffrey Lamar Williams, sound like an old man name, was arrested Monday in a raid on his Buckhead mansion. Okay, let's just go ahead. They making it juicy. I don't care about none of this. Sorry, y'all. Again, this district attorney, she's smiling through the press conference. It already got me wrong. It doesn't matter your notoriety, what your fame is. If you come to Fulton County, Georgia, you commit crimes. Certainly, if those crimes are, sorry, of street gang, then you're going to become a target and focus of this district attorney's office, and we're going to prosecute you to the fullest of the law. Williams is one of the 3 founding members. Like, what? 3 founding members of the so-called Young Slime Life Enterprise. Well, that is the dumbest name ever. Young
YSL.
Slime. What is this? Nickelodeon? Okay, which associates with the Blood Street Gang. No disrespect, Bloods. I don't want no drama. The 88-page indictment filed on Sunday outlines 180 acts. Oh, Jesus. That support just the first of 56 charges for 28 members of the gang. At that point, I'm flying out the country. Anyway, my number one focus is targeting gangs, and that's the reason for it. They are committing conservatively 75 to 80% of all violent crime we're seeing in our community. There's also fellow rappers Gunna and Young Gotti or Yak Gotti. Y'all can correct me in the chat. All were charges of racketeering. This is some of the tattooing of the gang members. This is some of the picture. Again, there's a reason I'm showing you this. Like, again, what are we doing here on social media? Social media here. Social media. How are they getting this data, y'all? Social media. Okay. So I'm not gonna bore you to death with the rest of this article. You can definitely read that on your own time. One thing I want y'all to understand is there's no bias in me reporting this because I showed y'all the breakdown of where this same county went and rounded up 25 Vietnamese folks for sex trafficking and all that good stuff when that shooting happened at the massage parlor. So let's just, I know somebody's gonna come back later. Well, you always talking bad about black. No. I hit all Atlanta, Georgia crime. When they came and got them Asian folks, I did a whole show on it. How they got them for credit card scheming. They all had mansions in Buckhead, and they came and got every one of them Asian folks. But you see the news difference, right? You see the news difference, okay? But anyway, all right, talk to me, guys. Does this make sense? People are like, Rico charges.
Yeah, it makes sense. Sadly, I mean, it makes sense. And just to be clear, right, I'm not trying to promote gang life, promote crime, nor am I trying to put down anybody. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense. When you are doing crime, when we are in a major crime wave, the DAs across the country are going to eat this up.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been investigating this whole thing since 2013. So this wasn't just something willy-nilly. This wasn't like non-thought through. It was thought through. It was very strategic. And they talk about this stuff in their lyrics, which oftentimes is posted on social media. Mm-hmm. So like, there's so many things that talk about this, right? The one thing is that a lot of these rappers actually take care of a lot of people. right?
Mhm.
So what happens when they get popped, when they get sent to jail? Nobody's thinking about the trickle down effect. Speaking of them, right? Because I believe our audience we're probably preaching to the choir to them, but nobody is
We
thinking
have new
about.
people drop in, so
Okay, all right, the new
we
people
give it
too,
to them. We give it to them.
right? But nobody's thinking about the ripple effect that this is going to have to many people's lives. These people are economic centers for many of their families and their communities. Again, not trying to excuse the alleged crimes that happened, but at the same time, we got to start really looking at this thing and dissecting this thing and saying this isn't good for anybody. So we already know what happened before during the crack era. A lot of people got locked up that weren't even doing crimes. A lot of people got locked up that were just associated and affiliated. And when you get a RICO charge, it's more along the lines of conspiracy. So
Mhm.
if you are supposedly going to do something or you're caught having a conversation that oftentimes can be taken out of context, but you're a known affiliate, it can be bad for you. So, we have to be careful about all of those things.
Yeah, I mean, this situation with Thug, and that's when I'm saying that I'm talking about the artist we know now as Young Thug. I think his real name is Jeffrey Williams. It's been going on a while. So the challenge is that, and this is what I try to explain to a lot of young people, is you've been kind of programmed through social media to broadcast a lot of stuff to everybody else in the world. And a lot of times when people go into entertainment, they go into music, they think that's what people want to get out of them. They think that's their credibility. So what the issue we have with I'm gonna call him Thug is that he's been broadcasting what he was about going off almost a decade. This is before he was a big artist. So law enforcement already has that data on him. So now it's hard to back out of it. Something that Ice-T talked about on Twitter the other day. He says it's easy to get people on the street to believe you're a gangster. It's hard to get the feds to believe you're not one. And so the challenge is that when you build out your notoriety around being this gang member, and that's how you're trying to build your credibility in the rap space. The problem is that now when they accuse you of it, you spend all this time broadcasting this to the world. And what I've tried to tell people for years is that if you talk about doing any illegal activity on the microphone, the law enforcement in your area has to go investigate it. And so I'm really wary of people going down this road because you create a kind of like a I don't know what you want to call it, almost like documentation of what you're involved in, but you're trying to use it as a way to get credibility in the music space so you can make money. But then the problem is it comes back to bite you. So this
Bless you.
issue with the area, bless you, the area that he's involved in, this has been going on a very long time in the city of Atlanta. This isn't anything new. It's just now we're in an election year. We're in a good political climate to start going after people. And so they may use them as an example. And then there's also, we can later on go into the fact that using a way of charging people that was really created for mafia members and now adding this to what we call black street gangs. And a lot of times the allegations are sometimes very flimsy. They're kind of based on conspiracy charges, which is what Kamar was talking about. But it really doesn't matter because in every scenario like this, there's somebody behind the scenes that has informed on you and given law enforcement probable cause to come after you. So they've given everything up already. So now the case is how many other people are going to give it up. So now we can justify putting people in jail.
Facts.
Wow, y'all already hot in the comments. Chill, everybody, chill. Take it down a notch. We feel you. We hear you. I see your comments. I want to be very clear, very very clear. I'm not condoning anybody's behavior. I'm not excusing anybody's behavior. I'm just saying, is this the appropriate methods to try to round up folks? Because if you really want to dissect what's going on in Atlanta, you have a strong influence in the Asian community, in the massage parlors, the sex trafficking, the credit card scheming. I would dare say they got RICO charges there, right? I would dare say that we have I think there's like an influx of Brazilians and Venezuelans that are there illegally in Atlanta. We're not rounding them up. Chicago has a cartel problem. They can't round them up. That's a Fed level problem uh, because they're a sanctuary city. So I'm just saying, why are they particularly targeting these folks, and why? And part of my issue is, uh this pulls in people who, unfortunately, uh, there's again, we've done a show on how the feds have been basically paying people to commit crime. So I already know when I just read that that's just the first part of the 56 pages, baby, they would have I would have never turned myself in. I'd have been gone across the country. I'd have been in Portugal. And people gonna say, well, Erica, your family, your family, your family. And that's the only reason these young men turn themselves in. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Because I've watched enough American Greed where this dude had, I think, $100 million. He went overseas and somebody got on the phone with him and told him, let me tell you what's about to happen. Get on that plane and come back over here, or your family gonna get hit. Okay. Because he was messing with mob level money.
Yeah.
That's the same thing was going to happen here. These men fled. They were going to come get their families. But it serves no justice, in my opinion, that they go to jail for the rest of their life, because their family's still going to suffer in the same exact way. So,
Well, some of their
just that.
families are already suffering. I mean, Young
Yeah.
Thug's baby mama just got killed in an alleged argument at a bowling alley. And then
Oh,
there's
right.
speculation that it had other things going on. Now, again, I don't know. But I'll say this, Erica.
That's convenient timing.
Right. And then somebody else in their clan just got killed recently too. But I'll say this though. I don't really care. Well, I mean, I do care. I don't want to come off as insensitive. But the fact of the matter is, I don't know if it's right or wrong. The real fact of the matter is it's happening, and it's more than likely going to continue to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been the pattern, right? So what are we going to do in advance of this? Because, I mean, again, we can get into the right and wrong thing, and, that's cool. But there's also the real thing of what is happening and what can happen. And so when these cats start doing crime, they talk about it in the lyrics. I mean, this is one lyric from Young Thug. Last nigga tried me, almost got popped on Linux. Ask the cops, ask the detectives. They know all the business. Going back to what David said, they already been known, right? They know all the business. Ask the cops and the detectives, all the jurisdictions. Gave the lawyer close to $2 million. He handles all the killing. Young Thug said that, right? So the other part of the problem is they do the work for many of these agencies by just posting on social media. That's happened over and over and over again. Same thing happened with Pooh Shiesty, with some of the robberies down in Florida. So, as we see more and more of this happen, there's going to be a bigger trend. You're going to see more and more of this happen as the crime wave goes. I don't know if it was you or Dave that said that this is an election year that's coming up, so it's convenient that they're going to do this now. I mean, that's how a lot of this stuff operates. Mm-hmm. You got to understand the way the system works so you can get in front of it.
Yeah, definitely. And to the Mr. Kingston 20, to be really real with you, like Atlanta from like a real life level is gang related. So everybody in Atlanta that's really moving with something is part of a crew. Now they're not all illegal, but they're moving with something. And so I think a lot of people, because they have this perception of Atlanta, because maybe they never really lived in the city. I mean, the actual city, or they just have it through like entertainment. It's just structured a certain kind of way. And so the issue with Thug and what they were doing is that that's something that's organic from their area. And then it got into the music industry. And so something that Kamari was talking about is that I've seen this before because we're older than Thug, is that we have this movement where they arrest everybody in the area, but the economic and social conditions don't change. So then what happens is in the next 5 to 10 years, you got the exact same scenario. Then they do it again, they do it again, they do it again, because law enforcement's job is really not to change the environment. Their job is just to arrest people and help them get prosecuted, thrown in jail. So the biggest challenge with this type of scenario is that if we don't do something about the economic and the social conditions that create these scenarios, we're just going to get a repeat, because these areas, they're not like the first crew out of these areas that have gone to prison for being part of a quote unquote organized movement that involved crime and things of that nature. A lot of the conflict between other groups, it's going to take place regardless, because it's just part of a lifestyle that they're living. But the Asians, they do crime that a lot of people are not aware of because they don't rap about it.
Ozark level crime.
Exactly. I'm from Florida. We have what we call 1% of biker gangs in Florida. They kill each other, but they're not going to make songs about it.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people's perception of criminality is so much from the entertainment industry, and that frames how they think criminality works. And it really works on a totally different level. That's not really based on entertainment, but their perception of it is through entertainment. So just want to give that feedback.
I was
And
gonna say too, Sons of Anarchy introduced. I'm just gonna say it introduced a lot of white people to like, oh, white people out here commit crime. The crime in Waco when they had like 400 biker gang members arrested, no one talked. They had to dismiss all the charges. And to this day, everybody's like, well, how it was people. There's like 6 people killed and people were shot and there's cameras. No one confirmed. No one complied. The video cameras at both angles didn't work. Were blurry. They had to let everybody go. And people are like, oh, well, Erica, you don't understand. These people snitch for different reasons. No, people snitch because they have no honor. People snitch. I mean, I know a man right now, unfortunately, from being from a cop family, he snitched. And the people said, man, we didn't even have a case till that boy said that.
Yep.
We were
that's a
going to let
fact.
them all go. And that boy ended up getting cancer and dying 2 years later. And I'm not saying that's karma. I'm just saying that he literally, like, he did all that. And the other boys went to jail for 15 years for something that was like, the judge was like, I was about to throw this out. It didn't have no merit. And so a lot of what's going on is this very much snitch community. But go ahead.
But no, everybody snitches. All the cops tell me that. Everybody snitches from the bottom to the top. And like you said, a lot of times those cases are built off of people being informants.
Yeah.
But sadly, and again, this is not a promotion of crime activity at all. This is more about how the system works and having people understand how the system works. Because again, let's not be naive and let's not act like innocent people don't get swept up in some of these incidents. Don't talk to the people unless you got representation there. If you are a minor, don't talk to the people unless your parents and representation are there. I mean, the New York Central Park Five, a big reason why they went to jail was because those police tricked them and had the parents give consent for them to talk to the authorities.
Terrorize their children.
Yeah. And these authorities are not your friends. They're not on your side. And again, it's sad because I believe, we go back to the 13th Amendment where it basically says anybody can be a slave if they commit crime.
Yeah.
We are going to see a further expansion of the industrial prison complex.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I just want y'all to understand about these prisons. Like, they're at all-time lows. Like, they're suing cities because there's no one there. And then majority of the people that are there are mental health patients. I've been advocating on this channel for years. I keep telling you, if we ever really say, you know what, let's go open back up those Dorothy Dix, those regional mental health hospitals, they would be full in a week. A lot of people that's homeless right now acting crazy. All of a sudden, you're like, hey, I got a place for you to go. I'm not crazy. I'm completely sane. I got my money together. I'm gonna move off this block today. I'm good. Because there's no balance to it per se. But I'm not knocking. So again, someone is informing me. Atlanta DA is a young woman from South Central LA. She understands ebonics and gang talk. She cracked the code and showed the model. This is bad news. Let me tell you something.
They already know the code.
They already know y'all code. Y'all ain't got no secrets. This is not like we speak in Vietnamese or another language. They gotta get a translator in there. Politics is very much inside of being elected to certain positions, y'all. She couldn't crack
position.
LA. She couldn't crack LA. So she had to go all the way across the country to Atlanta to do what? Shine. That's why when you see people in Atlanta that's been there their whole life and somebody come from New York and open up a business and do all this stuff, is because they sometimes, not always, that New Yorker couldn't shine in New York. They can shine in Atlanta though. That's all that is. I'm not knocking the DA woman. She doing her job, but like the whole press conference, she up there smiling and grinning like she about to run for office. It's like, chick, chill out. Like, this isn't, to me, this whole Atlanta thing, what we're seeing is, if you go to Midtown right now and you've never been to Midtown 7 years ago, it's a whole different Midtown. It's a whole different Midtown. And they're trying to attract, hey, you're from New York, you're from up north, come to Atlanta. It's a vibrant city. It's an alive city. It's things to do. You should relocate here. If you come in here and you ain't got no money and you're going to be acting up, we don't want you here. That's what this signifies to me.
Yeah, and not to cut you off, is that a lot of what they're going to do with this scenario is they're going to just push a lot of stuff farther out. And so as opposed to actually dealing with the problem, and we saw this when they knocked down the projects in Atlanta, and they started moving a lot of people like to Riverdale and Jonesboro. Mm-hmm. So you just take the same problem and you just move it farther out, as opposed to trying to figure out how can we actually deal with the problem. We don't really want to deal with the problem. We just want to move people. And so I think that's really what the issue is, that they're going to do another mass incarceration blitz. And the people that don't get mass incarcerated, they're just going to get economically moved out. But then they're going to go somewhere else and just restart everything over again, because that's not really a solution to the problem. And so one of the things that we see law enforcement talk about the arrests they made, but if there's not an economic or a social piece to it, then the problem is that the thing just starts repeating. So that the younger generation of this area, they're going to get brought up without these guys around, and they're just going to do the same thing. Because, I remember 10 years ago when Thug was in his early 20s, he was already doing this. So that's what I want people to understand, is that this didn't start last week. They've been doing this for a long time. Once I moved to Atlanta, I started to really understand who Thug was in that city that I wasn't aware of on the outside looking in. But he had been involved in a lot of this stuff for a very long time.
I mean, they're going back to 2015 when Lil Wayne's bus got shot up. I mean, so that's...
I want y'all to understand. And so I will address what C. Ashton said. He said, nobody's mentioned all the land he just bought. He did not buy that land. He was gifted 100 acres of land.
Damn.
Okay. He was gifted 100 acres of land. Let me see if I can pull it up. By realtor Trey Williams and his manager. That's a Nigerian name. I can't even say it right. With this land, Young Thug plans to build the city of Atlanta area. He plans to build Slime City, which is more of a subdivision than a city. Oh my God, what a dummy. I'm sorry. This is hands down one of the best ways to invest your money, Thugger wrote. So here's my thing. Okay.
I want to know what real estate agent is going to be able to market Slime City, and who are they marketing it to?
Here's the thing. That sounds like mad money laundering. That sounds like some money laundering right there. Hold on, y'all. I'm gonna pull that article up because I like to show what I'm talking about here. Because we do have this thing. Well, T.I.'s building all this real estate. That's why they went after him. No, they went after T.I. because his inappropriate sexual behavior towards young people. Not underage people, but just younger people. Let's just be very careful. I'm not accusing nobody of nothing. You can't. Here's the thing, y'all. And they say this all the time. Like, as a person who worked under John Edwards, and then I also worked with city council in Fayetteville, North Carolina, in many levels, and even got pitched to run in Georgetown, Texas. They gonna ask you all the questions. They gonna ask you everything about your whole life before they run and give you something, right? Or push you to the forest. You can't push people like T.I. Even Slim Thug is a good example, but still has issues. These people have too much background. Yeah. Like it's nothing for somebody to sit for a month and dig up their background. It's too easy. This is the same thing the way they do politics. Like, even if you want to hit the angle, which I'm not even sharing the screen, I apologize. Let me share it. Even if you want to hit the angle that he bought land and they trying to get him out of here because he's making moves. The crime of preceding this land. You know what I mean? Like,
we always say that though, sadly, right? Cosby's buying a station, and I love Cosby, right, for the record, but a lot of times, listen, I have no problem.
Some of that is fake. Some of that is fake, but yeah, some of it is not.
But
fake.
we always, and this is no diss to the brother, but we always want to try to find a way to justify the madness. And there's no way to justify this madness on many levels, right? We're talking about it from more of a systemic level. Mm-hmm. But I mean, some of these people who have died, their families are impacted forever. Yeah. And nobody is ever really thinking about the trauma that's bringing on our communities long term, short term and long term, honestly.
Yeah. I can't find which realtor this is, but when I find it, I'm gonna post it. But go ahead.
And what I want to say with something that, especially for a lot of our younger men, is when you become successful and you have the opportunity to kind of influence your group, do you want to kind of ask yourself what your influence is? Because the issue and the challenge we have with Thug is that you became very successful in music, and this is going to come out in the case because I know a lot. Like I know, and we don't want to put it all on the camera, but there's a lot more to this than what we're going to just see in the indictment. It's a lot deeper than that, and I've talked about it a little bit on my channel. But what this guy's involved in is deeper than just Atlanta. Yeah. And the challenge I have with Thug is that once you become successful in music, why don't you make an effort to take your situation with your people and turn it more positive as opposed to influencing them to get involved in negative stuff because that's what you want to do. And I think that's really what we have is with a lot of our younger people that become successful. We've seen this with professional athletes. We've seen this with other entertainers. They become successful. Instead of trying to move their group to the positive, they try to figure out how to keep the situation more negative. And that's why you get into these scenarios. I'm not saying people are perfect.
Yeah.
But I want to repeat to the people that are watching this. This is not new. And I don't think people think because they see Thug on with a dress and they see the lipstick, which to me is kind of out there, but that's what he wants to get involved in. But they don't really understand like who this guy really is in Atlanta. Because they really not from Atlanta like that and they're not really tapped in. This is not somebody to play with in the city.
Yeah.
But he could have been that person on a positive note as opposed to taking the situation to where he took it, which is causing the problems he got now. Because when they coming into your house, you already get arrested and then they hit your house again and they pull all this stuff out of your house. It's because somebody somewhere has told them all of this is going on.
Yeah.
They're not pulling this out of a hat. They know everything about you because somebody has told them everything about you because of your behavior pretty much over the past decade.
And a lot of times you told a lot of it on your own because you put it on social media.
Yeah. Well, you saw the picture of that one dude on a plane with all this cash. And he was 25. I said, baby, come on.
Yeah, Rollo.
Baby, come on.
Yeah.
Come on now, baby. Like, it don't take a rocket science. This is his manager, y'all. That's the reason I'm putting this up here that with that other guy gifted him 100 acres. Y'all have some great questions in here. We're not going to be able to hit them all. Here's my thing, y'all. Like, there's just saying, this guy says, you don't need 100 people to go do something crazy. You can take 3 people and y'all can take over a whole city. And I know that to be a fact. If you look at 3rd Ward in Houston, 5 families own 80% of the properties over there.
Yeah.
3 Jewish and 2 Italian. And they just keep buying them up. And I literally am doing a little for my behind the wall members, YouTube members. I'm going to just show y'all what we're doing in this one area of Texas. And there's a reason we're doing it because that's literally how we've been taught by other white dudes to you just buy up 100 this and keep it and you own this whole area. And so it's like when the money comes in, what are people doing with the money? That owning parts of real estate in Atlanta just makes sense to me. But Ricardo Roper said, quick question to Dave. Where does urban America go? Chicago, Detroit, NYC, Philly, Cleveland. We have no problem. How do we fix these urban jungles? Like, where is there to go? Like, we can't escape these areas, I guess is what he's saying.
As far as where to go, I don't really understand the question when he says, how do we fix these urban jungles? Well, you got to define what you mean by fix. But in my opinion, the solution a lot of times is economic and social. So even if we pull the agents out of our environment that we think are negative to our environment, if we don't fix the economic and social problems, which law enforcement is not designed to do, that's not their mandate, that's not their charge, we just reset the problem. Because everybody's only to remember when in the 90s, everybody went to prison. I was in Atlanta in the early 2000s. That's when I really started moving up there. They had a run in the early 2000s where the feds came in and locked up everybody. But then we had it reset again with guys that was thugs aged around, let's say 2008, 2009. They started getting involved and they started kind of poking their head up above water around 2012. It's the same process. So until we start kind of understanding economic development and understanding, social development, we're just essentially on a hamster wheel, right? Us just running away from the problem is not going to solve the problem.
Yeah.
There's a lot of education that's going to go into that question that he asked, right? I hate to say this, right? Willie Lynch has done a hell of a job on our community. And if you don't know who Willie Lynch is, basically, he's a fictional character, but he basically wrote the code, said this is how you break slaves. And sadly, that mentality has lived with us for generations upon generations upon generations. And we haven't taken enough agency to say, this ain't the way we want to live. I mean, David was talking about, why would Thug choose to go this route? Because they love the streets. A lot of times these cats love the
Detention.
streets, and they don't realize that, if we want to be honest, who created the streets? That was a manufacturing of white supremacy. And so when we pledge allegiance to the streets, we're really pledging allegiance to white supremacy. But I know that's a little bit too deep. Folks don't want to go there, so I'm gonna just leave it at that.
There's this thing I say, and again, if I offend anybody, it's just gonna be what it is. Proactive, reactive. I live in Austin, Texas. The white people as stuff start going up. Well, let's move further out. Well, we keep moving for USDA loan, no money down. When I would go to the program that was created for Section 8 people and people in the projects, it was full of white and Asian folks in there sitting, listening. Hey, we're gonna give y'all $15,000 down to go buy a house in Austin. That's when I first got there. A couple years later, they moved up. We're gonna give you 25,000, 30,000. Every year they market it and they have a flyer at every single door of every person that lived in the project and in Section 8 housing. How many would show up, right? So I'm a big proponent against, well, there's not enough training and education. Y'all, there's so much training, education, and grants and stuff out here. We have these smartphones in our hand. Black people got to take a little bit more autonomy over our situation. Now, I will say this. When you're stressed out, you're just trying to have a chill moment. I get that, but your whole life can't be a chill moment. We're very reactionary, not proactive. So when you name off all those cities, the first thing you do if you talk to somebody black from those cities, well, I'm just trying to move to somewhere else. Okay, well, what you do when you get there? And I feel like a lot of people move to Atlanta and they thought they had, I'll be careful here. They thought they had skills because they got paid $20 or $25 an hour in New York doing some menial later job. They get to Atlanta, they're like, that's a $12 job. How dare you insult me? That's not a $12 job. Baby, if it's a $20 job in New York, it's a $12 job in Atlanta.
Cost of living.
It costs the living and also the job. I mean, I've literally talked to people who were receptionists at an office in not Manhattan, but she was near one of them islands or something. And I was like, how much you think you're gonna make when you move to Florida? Because she's all about moving to Florida. I'm like, what you think you're gonna make down there in a reception position, right? So the reactionary problem is, I feel like I could pull up 1 million black people right now. I could pull 100,000 out of like multiple cities, drop them in some training, and it would change the whole United States.
Yeah.
Like and they know it. They know it. Like the government knows it. Everybody knows it. Like it's not to me, that's a easy. But down here, C. Ashton says, well, he was going to build a store and give away free clothing, food, things in his old elementary school. They were giving back. C. Ashton, the mob gave back. The thugs in Jamaica give back.
Nino Brown on Thanksgiving gave away turkeys.
The government don't care if you want to have a nonprofit and give back. T.I. I think has a nonprofit. Slim Thug down there. Like, listen, there's a great video. I break it down about what Slim Thug said. It was spot on. If y'all realize you only need about $20K a month and you can live like a king in Houston, you could build a house a year. You could do a few different things. He's like, why y'all buying all this gold, all this jewelry? He's like, I don't even put my gold on unless Beyonce, Jay-Z come into town for a party. He's like, you just need you a nice vehicle and a nice neighborhood. Like, this giving back stuff. So what? That again, the government is not like, man, he's trying to give back free stuff. Oh no. Nah, the government didn't care about that. We have people giving free stuff every day.
Yeah, and that's true about Gunna. You know, Ashton, we're not going to take it away from him. Mm-hmm. But the challenge is that, and this is what people got to realize, and, you know, Ashton, you may notice, if you're running with a crew, the way the government is working is that you're responsible for what everybody in that crew is doing.
Yes.
So whether you know what they're doing or you don't know what they're doing, you're responsible because they're going to put you in a RICO and say all of y'all are acting in concert. Right. So that's just how it goes. When you're running in a real crew, what everybody in that crew was doing, you're involved. Because like I say, before they was doing the RICO, we knew coming up, if I'm running with a crew with Kamari and Kamari on the other side of town beefing with somebody and they can't get to Kamari, well, they may just try to get to me. That's how the game works. So I don't understand this idea of Gunna knows who he's running with. If you running with some guys and they just shot us and they just want to get at people, that's something that you're going to have to deal with. Why? Because you're running with these people. So if you're going to take the fame of the crew and the name of it to try to promote yourself, you got to take everything that come with that. That's part of being in the crew. And I don't think people realize that, because I don't know if they've ever run in crews before, but that's part of life of being in a crew. So when we're trying to get this crew's name to a certain level, because not only do we got to function on the street, we also got to function in prison. People are going to do things to promote the name of the crew. You got to take what come with that because you're running in the crew. That's why I tell y'all, go get you a house, go get you education, go get you a wife or a husband or whatever you want to do. and just be a square person. Then you ain't got to deal with these kind of problems. When you try to mix all this stuff up and then law enforcement come after you, you got to take what come with it.
Facts.
Yeah, I mean, so somebody kept spamming this in the chat. I didn't block you out. Y'all supposed to be doing y'all job. Stop supporting the music that hurts the community. Y'all, 75% of all rap music is bought by white people.
And it's been like that.
It's been like that.
Rap is crossed over.
100%. I did a whole video, showed you that every music executive is a Jewish white man.
Yeah.
I showed you about 25 companies. Jewish white. It's not a black man up there. You better rap about this, girl. You know what I mean? Like, there's no, again, even with the women, like I've heard several women rappers be like, why are we always rapping about sex? This is what is being approved by their company. Okay.
Well, and the other part is that we don't really promote a lot of the safer forms of music too.
Oh yeah, J. Cole's boring, and I the only rap I've ever listened to is Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole. Everything else I'd be in the car like, what is going on? Like, and I only listen to J. Cole because he's from my city and I try to support, right? Like, but I'd be sitting there confused, like, what's happening? And I want y'all to understand, like, it's not the music. It's when somebody has a lack of, I mean, I hate the word education because it's beat to death, but a lack of a skill, like just a lack of a skill, right? And that's why I brought on Michael Sneed. I'm gonna bring him on again, like handyman businesses. If you're a black man complaining about construction, complaining about this, you can learn those skills in a weekend. You know, there's always I hate to say this like this, there's always an older blackhead crackhead that's in his 50s. He can fix everything.
Yeah.
He ain't never got a problem getting his crack because he can fix it. He come to your house and fix it. You got to make sure you lock the doors when he leave, but he gonna take that money and have a great day. But that's how basic you have to break the skill down. Can you do this skill and get some money in your pocket? You're meeting a lot of young brown children who parents are like, oh, don't go to college because of debt. Okay, that's fine. But what you gonna lead them to next?
Yeah.
They watching people on social media lie. 6ix9ine up there coloring his hair looking crazy, lying. What's his name? That young dude, Lil Wayne. We saw him grow up from 12 years old on, but he up there talking about thug culture. I mean, come on, y'all. This stuff is like, it's silly season. You see. Oh man, y'all. Not Tariq. Listen, I love Tariq, but he's agent of chaos. Anyways, he do some good and he do some bad. I'm gonna leave that alone.
Well, can we break that down? Why are we saying Fonnie Willis is not a friend of the black community? Because he's prosecuting people that are doing crimes in the black community, alleged crimes.
Mm-hmm.
What about those crimes that actually might hurt our family? Will we want them prosecuted? And I know what a lot of people are going to say, well, I'm going to handle it myself. Well, everybody might not be able to carry that weight. So how do we protect them? How do we protect the grandmoms and nanas that are afraid to walk to the store to get basic everyday needs? Like, a lot of times, I don't think we're thinking a little bit deep enough about the overall defund the police. Now, we can talk about defund the police if we want to go into the nuance of it. I don't have a problem with it. It's a terrible slogan. But when you really look at it, there probably are some resources that could go to some other places like mental health workers and things like that. But at the same time, defund the police never happened. They've actually gotten more money over the years.
They did. More money.
So, like, we got to go deeper into this stuff, y'all.
And the wording they use, the marketing is like, Austin, they took some money from the gang resource unit. There's no gangs in Austin, y'all. It's only the Mexican cartel going through 35. There's no gangs. And the white people are like, oh my God, they took the gang task force out of Austin. We're the capital, and they're like, crime went up. There's double the murders. I said, well, how many murders do we have? We had 46. I said, well, let's look at the 46 crimes. What do we have? They were all homeless people fighting and murdering each other.
Yeah.
And there was only 5 that were from like downtown. It was a shootout with some Houston folks shooting at each other. Right. And then it was another shooting with like a fight broke out and somebody shot somebody off 6th Street. But if you actually look at it, if anything, we need a homeless task force.
Yeah.
The homeless is stabbing each other. Like, what's happening? But people were like, the crime. Oh my God, they took away the money. And I'm like, y'all, Austin is one of the safest cities out there. It on records unknown. Now San Antonio, hey, they popping out there. They popping in the hookah lounge out there. But Austin, it's dry. We a dry ass city. That's why black people are like, I don't know how y'all do anything here. We don't do anything here. We sit down. That's what we do here. So
Hey,
Jersey did that.
boring is lucrative.
Very lucrative. Very. They did that in Chicago. Now the burbs of Bellevue and Grays Lake are becoming increasingly violent.
Yep.
They're
This
doing
is.
that everywhere.
Yep.
I told y'all. Listen, Jason Black. I don't agree with him all the time, but he said when he made that documentary, "You Will Be Moved." He did that 5 years before people really started feeling this increased gentrification. And I sit here and tell you, if you're a black person who owns something, you like, this is great, right? If you're a black person that doesn't own anything, and I'm sitting here telling you that 93% of cities black people cannot afford to live in, and I'm sitting here telling you, hey, like land in the rural areas, and people are like, oh, Erica, I'm like, y'all, you gonna be out there renting too, and that's even worse. You'll be out in the middle of the country renting somewhere, and you can be pissed. Somebody said Slime City is a low income housing development. Lord,
So it's a project.
yeah.
That makes sense.
I mean, low income housing is a need. I'm
Yeah.
not. Yeah, it's a real
It's a
need.
need.
So
Where else? Y'all got so much in here.
Al
Things don't
Capone was
change that fast.
absolutely. Yeah, he was absolutely convicted on taxes, and people don't realize that if you are doing stuff and you are moving where you are hurting the citizenry, right? At some point, somebody's going to look for you.
Right. He said, right? Old heads with any sound advice would always try to keep younger ones to go the same route if possible. I mean, there's several. I'm in Fort Worth right now, but there's several like little black men doing stuff all over. And like when I started doing working with Tim Jackson, like some of the classy climbers here, and I thank y'all, start going to his events. So there, if you actually look up Dallas, there's full of black men. If we could just all connect them, brothers, we'd be doing something in Dallas, right? Like I can see the wave that's happening in Dallas of like black men popping up, mentoring like 20 kids here, 20 kids there, 20 kids there. Like, and I'm in Austin, and even when I just come here, I'll be like, dang, y'all doing a lot up here. But nobody really markets that. Oh gosh, y'all got so much in here. I'm gonna have to keep going. Um, I can't. What's good, Tim Jackson?
It's good, Tim.
What's up, bro?
I didn't even know he was gonna be here. Let me see. What else? Y'all have so much. Part of my problem too is Atlanta. Atlanta has not figured out what to do with its population that was originally there, other than lock them up. Right? Every year when I see all them water boys over every single corner, and it's almost a running joke that they out there gonna harass you. It's like we can't figure out some summer camp yet. We haven't figured out summer camp where we just gonna offer some of these kids we see out here every summer something. You know what I'm saying? Like we haven't figured that out yet. The math on that.
Yeah, I mean, historically, what they did was they just ignored their poor residents. So pretty much everybody, that had the money moved to what they call Midtown, Buckhead, and then everybody moved north, and they just ignored the poor residents. And so now they got to figure out what to do with it because they want their real estate. And so that's one of the challenges, is that a lot of our miseducation is that when we become successful, we don't look to become a benefit to our area. We almost look to become a detriment to our area. My problem with a lot of these young dudes and a crew is that you want to have a crew, that's cool. But I'm not a fan of you trying to terrorize your own area because people got to live there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why you want to do that in your own area. And a lot of times that's what this stuff turns into, to where you become a problem for the people that live around you. So then we can justify law enforcement coming in and removing you. It makes sense to form a crew or to organize around your area. But then the question is, what are you doing to be beneficial as opposed to be a detriment to the people in your area, especially the people that's not part of your crew? And I think we don't really understand that piece yet, because we kind of have an identity of what kind of person we think is appropriate for us to be. And a lot of times that a person can turn negative. Mm-hmm. And that's where the socialization comes in. Brothers like Tim Jackson got programs for the young folks to kind of understand, when you get in position, what do you do with it that can be positive as opposed to doing something that's going to be negative?
I mean, but if you really look at this, there's a pattern here. Like, we really got to start looking at patterns. So anytime anybody wants to disrupt anything, they usually take out the men and many of the elders, and there's a vacuum there, and chaos pursues. You see it in Africa, but guess where else you see it? In many of the urban cities in America, and that's why we're talking about this today. They did the same thing with the Rico and with crack cocaine laws, and Nixon being an enemy of black people many, many years ago. So they formulated all these things to take a lot of the black men and black women out of the home. And so these men that Dave is talking about, a lot of times they didn't have any guidance. And I'm not trying to give them cover or make any excuse for them. But I do think, we want to talk about the root cause of this. And let's not recreate the same cycle over and over again. Because a lot of times it's like, yeah, let's sit on the camp, right? Like you said, but if they ain't got no daddy at home, no positive daddy at home, yeah, you might get some reprieve for a couple weeks. But when they come back home, it's still chaos ensuing all over again. And nobody's really thinking about that.
Yeah, you're right. And that's what we talked about, where the solution can't just be locking everybody up because you just restart the cycle.
Yep.
But like I said, we can't expect that solution on law enforcement because that's not their function. Their function is to lock people up. The function of that DA is to put charges on people and put them in prison, because that's how she's going to get reelected or get reappointed. And so that's what if we just leave our young people to those people, their only solution is to lock you up and put you in jail. They don't have another solution because that's all the tools that they have available. Mm-hmm. So now that we understand that's what they're doing, then how can we come in with different alternatives? Because what we've told black people for the past 30, 40 years is that with a solution to dealing with our young folks, and I know because I've experienced that, is to just incarcerate everybody. But like you talked about before, is that there's a gap in our young people where they don't have a positive influence. They got influences, but they're not positive. And that's what I want people to understand about Atlanta, is Atlanta's being in these hoods of Atlanta have been influenced by outside people. And we can't really get into that because that's not the tone of the show. Right. And so we're dealing with this outside influence that gets you to think, even though I'm a big time rapper, I'm a former crew called YSL, because in reality, I'm trying to look good to somebody else. Mm-hmm. And that's really what's starting this, right? You trying to look good to another group of people from another part of the country behind what they started. And that's really what this problem is, because we got to deal with, like I said, the economic and the social. Just incarcerating everybody is an acute situation, but it's not going to be a long-term solution.
So I was going to say, I agree with you. The job of law enforcement is not to create real solutions, right? They're all short-term oriented. Mm-hmm. But we can't look to government to be our savior either. And I know a lot of times we do that. And I'm a big proponent of black people being involved in politics, because I believe if you are not at the table, you are on the menu. However, I also feel that the onus is on black folks to take back their own communities. And what I mean by that is in every way possible, from education to politics to the business to the commerce, we have to be looking at total solutions and looking at the whole thing. Again, I know that might be a little bit too much for this convo, but we have to realize that the government's not going to help us in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. I mean, the government benefits, and especially we talk about the legal system, they benefit from these breakdowns. Mm-hmm. So, law enforcement is essentially a profession in which you're never going to get a contraction. You're only going to get an expansion, because why? We're just going to keep locking both people up. As long as the economy gets worse, the social situation gets worse. Our biggest challenge is that the way we programmed our people, and a lot of times I don't blame them, is many people don't want to deal with these young folks. Why? Because they likely to shoot you just as quick as they likely to say hi to you. So the problem is, how do you create a communication line where you can speak to some of these young folks? Because the average person, black person that lives in Atlanta, they don't want to go to Cleveland Avenue. They don't want to go to Summer Hill. They don't want to go to East Point. They definitely don't want to go to East Atlanta. They don't want to go to Boulder Crest. Why? Because I'm fearful for my life. So how do I create a mechanism to where I can deal with these young people who are prone to violence on some level, because that's their lifestyle, to where I can create a bridge between myself and them to where I can teach them. The average person don't want to deal with that, because I don't want to lose my life dealing with somebody else's children.
Right.
I mean, I think one of the ways you do it, Tim Jackson said, we have to buy back our hoods, for lack of a better term. We have to start looking again at patterns. All this stuff has happened before. Dave said it, right? When we was growing up, it was, all the drug crews, all the black drug crews that they talk about now on American Greed and American Gangster. Like, all that stuff was real. People laugh at me because I make a lot of references to the crack era. That was the era that formed me. And it's like, now it's like we're seeing the same exact thing happen. And to me, this pattern is the same, very similar to what happened in the late 60s and late 70s, where we had rapid gang activity across the country. It's not just Atlanta, y'all. It's across the country, right? You know, when you got the police commissioner of LA saying that it's not safe to visit the city, you know there's an issue. So, you know, again, the government's not going to do anything. Like Dave said, they're just going to lock folks up, especially us black folks. And so we really have to start saying, what are we going to do to make a change?
So Tim Jackson said, music is entertainment. No one ever blames mafia movies for violence. I will say they inspire. I'm not going to blame them, but I say they inspire. When you have a weak link family, they inspire. I will say this. Somebody put this here, and I will attest to it. Square life is too boring for them. They're addicted to fast-paced lifestyle. The number one complaint, people say, Erica, you always making fun of New Yorkers and people from up north. And I live in North Carolina.
I'm up
Philly,
north. I'm one of them.
And anytime they would come down, y'all, oh shit, where the party at? What we doing? What we doing? It's so boring here. What we doing? Where the moves at? And you're like, are you on drugs? What's wrong with you? Take a deep breath. They've become you have to realize you have young children who are being formed in unstable environments. It's rush, fast money, fast money, fast money. You know, there's always, you know, I'm not gonna call it trauma, but I'm gonna say trauma for lack of words to describe it. And even if that mom pulls them out of Chicago and moves them to Atlanta, which I know 5 women who've done that, it's somehow easy for them to drift to other kids who are used to that same issue as well. So even if these ladies move from New York, they move from Chicago, they're trying to protect their children, and I respect them for it. You get to Atlanta and you don't really have a program for him to follow or her to follow, or sports for them to get into, or some type of change, like a turn. These kids kind of fall back into the same patterns, but just in a new city. I don't know if y'all know anything about Utah, but Utah had this program where they had got all these kids in I don't want to blame the Mormons. I don't want that drama, but the Mormons created all these camps. And California and Nevada was like, yo, we got all these juveniles and we don't want to build these jails. So they were sending them to these camps in Utah. Well, eventually those kids end up, because these camps were kind of half open, half closed, they started bringing gang violence to Utah. And Utah was like, hey, what's going on? Where did this gang violence come from? So just in case you pull these kids out of these environments, if you don't set them in a system and kind of retrain them, they repeat the pattern. So if Young Thug was doing this since 2013, like somebody else older than him was also doing this. Do you know what I mean? Like this is a pattern in a system. They're just repeating it.
We need a renewing of the mind. It's more than environment's important too. Don't get me wrong.
It's very important.
It's very important, but we also need a renewing of the mind. We have to start evaluating what's really important to us and where we want to be, not just today or tomorrow, but where we want to be 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, 200 years down the road.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. There's a book that I read a few years ago called Psycho-Cybernetics, and it kind of deals with identity. And so that's what I was saying with Thug, is that you come out of a certain area, but then you become successful in music, but you still have the identity that I'm a criminal. And you still got an identity that I run with a bunch of criminals. So you still engage in criminality. Because with people, if they really do the research, he was pulled over, I want to say maybe a few weeks before this arrest, in which there was a lot of drugs, guns, and other paraphernalia involved in the car that he was in that he could have got charged with. And the fact that he was let go should have been the key to him, that they was on top of him like that.
I'd have been like, time to leave.
Exactly. But see, he didn't just, you move and you're caught up in your lifestyle and you're not really paying attention to what's going on around you. So I just think a lot of it is identity. We got to really start asking ourselves, like, who do you really see yourself as, and what are you really involved in? Because that governs your actions. And also, why do we have, and this is something I talk about on social media, is so many people have this preoccupation with a criminal lifestyle, even if you're not in a criminal lifestyle, because what you're telling the young people is that if you're not in a criminal lifestyle, something's wrong with you. And we got too many people that are so preoccupied with criminality, even though they're not involved in it. They keep programming our community that they should be involved in that as a way to become legitimate or the way to become recognized or affirmed. And that's something we really need to start looking at.
Well, I feel like, I say this a lot, but I feel like Black culture has adopted street culture with criminality as a part of it, as the norm. And I know criminality is American pie, but when we take a minute and we look at who actually gets the brunt of the burden or who gets attacked the most out of this, it's usually us.
Yeah.
And so again, our allegiance to street culture has been nothing but a downward cycle. But again, I'm not trying to get too deep, but I think we got to have some more deep conversations because folks got to figure out a different way to go.
Right. So this guy said the mob didn't destroy their community. Therein lies difference.
That is true. That is true.
That is true. They
I
made
mean,
their particular area safer. But if you look at, the mob isn't just Italians, y'all. I want y'all to understand that. Like, mobs are we can go right now in where I'm from, Fayetteville, Fort Bragg, one of the second largest military installation. They broke up. Like, the feds came in, and this was so funny is I know 3 people's moms who moved back to Korea all of a sudden. I'm like, why would she move back to Korea? She's been living here for her whole life. And then the next month, they went and racked up like 10 different places that had parlors and different stuff. And people have been joking, there ain't no Korean gang. Erica, literally, we tried to buy a dry cleaner from my friend's mom. She's got a black husband. She's Korean. She said, I can't sell it to you. Like, we had already started the process, but paperwork, I'd already have to check everything. And she said, I can't sell it to you because I took a loan from this group. She didn't want to go too deep. I took a loan from this group. I have to sell it within somebody in that group first before I sell it to you, even if they don't want it. And I was like, what? So to say that we think, oh, Italians mob, like, there's different mobs and gangs all over the United States, y'all.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
this, like
Exactly.
we're just a cleaner country than South America. That's all. Like, don't get it twisted. When you can go look this up in Fayetteville, they went and racked up a bunch of ladies and arrested them for all kind of stuff. And this isn't that long ago. But trust me.
To Sahara, I believe her point is a lot of times the mob would look out for their community, right? We know the infamous Godfather scene, put the drugs in the black area, let them destroy themselves, yada, 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 yada.
Don't sell drugs over here. Yeah.
Right. But what they won't show is how they will tax their businesses also.
Exactly.
So, it's interesting what gets showed and what doesn't get showed. Again, everything is in the nuance. People like to say the devil's in the detail. I say God's in the detail because when you really get into the detailed things, you can really understand how to navigate and how to move certain things.
Yeah, and one of the things that we do is that, and like I said before, I just think it's a lack of exposure. I don't compare a crew off Cleveland Avenue to the 5 families of New York.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing. You're talking about something that one has gone back 100 years, is very structured, is very rigid for a very long period of time. So they're not a comparison, but that's how we like to compare them. And that's what law enforcement is doing now, is they're using laws that they were using to go after Italian mobs that were very, very structured, very organized, that had real hierarchy. They had rituals and ceremonies, the whole 9 yards. And they're using that to go after black street gangs. And to me, it's inappropriate what they're doing, but they're doing it just to put a lot of time on people. So we try to compare the two, and there's really no comparison. And also, if you look at it, Italian mafioso is based on bloodlines. It was based on family.
Right, family, yeah.
It's not based on a bunch of people being a crew because they all live around each other. So it's a different type of structure. And even with all of that, those dudes started telling on each other. And so people got to understand is that the government can break any situation over time because they just will put so much stress and pressure on you. Eventually it'll break. And eventually they broke the Italian mob. Or Giuliani had a lot to do with that when he was a federal prosecutor. So I just think we got to get away from thinking that there's one level to this that's better than the next level. It's all really based around the same stuff. And like you said before, is nobody talked about the fact that, they essentially impacted unions. They did a lot of things in a lot of different areas that people didn't like. We just talk about the part that we think is better than what we call black street gangs.
Right.
Yeah.
But I get you, Dave, and I feel where you're coming from. But when you look at the times, right, in the 60s, I think the RICO was started in 1970, right? And so at the time, that was kind of the heightened criminal activity. So that got a lot of the attention because they were trying to break that up. Like you said, they infiltrated the unions, a lot of your waste workers, waste companies, sanitation. Yep. A lot of times was infiltrated and created or controlled by the mob. But now, a lot of these other crimes aren't quiet. They're loud.
Yeah.
And so they have people and hysteria, and they're fearful, and they don't know what to do. And so when you have like, matter of fact, in my city, right, the other day I just saw a young gentleman whose family I know, young man got killed, 30 years old. It was a choreographed shooting. 2 men pulled up on him at a gas station, shot him. So as we see these crime sprees across America, not just Atlanta, but across America, we are going to see more ramped up activity going after these folks. And so, again, I get your point.
Porch package.
Yeah, but
in
again,
Texas. Yeah.
But my point is, like, this is going to keep happening. This is going to keep happening. So again, we can complain about them not doing the right job or being wrong or playing the race card to a certain degree, but this is the reality of America. And when we start getting into that, it's like, well, what's wrong is right. Because if they weren't doing no criminal activity, we wouldn't be nothing to talk about. So
you're 100% correct. But the RICO Act is not going to stop the criminal activity.
No, it's not.
It's
no
not.
laws.
So it's because, like I said, the stuff is going to
I
keep.
agree with that. I agree.
Yeah, it's going to keep spinning. So they can RICO Act it. It looks good to do their thing. They got a RICO Act on a crew in Polk County, Florida. They got, I don't know, 25, 30, 40 people in that RICO Act. I mean, it looks good, but it's not going to stop it. So they can continue to go after it. The problem with the RICO on a lot of black crews and the Italian mob is because it's not structured. You can't get rid of 1 or 2 people and get rid of the whole thing.
Right. I agree.
Because it's based on being really disorganized. And so they can take away these guys that they saying are leaders of these crews, but because it's so fluid and it's so unorganized, one person is just as good as the other person.
Right.
So I just think I understand what you're saying. It's just I don't think this is a way to get people off the street, but it's not going to solve the bigger problem, which is the economic and the social problem.
No, I agree with that. But the government's not here to solve problems. They're here to collect taxes.
Oh, you definitely. Yeah. And like I said, we're a solution to their problem. Their problem is they need to keep people employed in law enforcement. Mm-hmm. They need to keep people employed in corrections. They need to make DAs look good. So they understand how to create a scenario to where we're a solution to their problem. They've been doing that for a very long time. So we've always been a solution to their problem.
Well, you saw the opiate crisis. I told y'all, they're like, oh, look how many black people get arrested. I said, 56 cities in the Northeast. In Philly's one of them, the neighboring towns near Philly, the white police sergeants were like, I'm not arresting these poor drug victims. So you telling me if a opiate head breaks in my house and I call y'all, I don't, they need treatment and therapy. So the numbers are already skewed when you have pretty much from West Virginia up deciding, hey, we just can't arrest these people. So the numbers are skewed, y'all. So like let's go ahead and address that. The numbers are skewed on race and arrest records. Now, someone said, well, the mob did open legitimate business. And again, they
open legitimate businesses to funnel their illegal activity. The longer that money, the further do more illegal activity.
Yeah. And something else a lot of people don't understand is that it's illegal to launder money now.
Yes.
It wasn't illegal to launder. There was no federal money laundering laws when these guys are doing what they were doing.
Thank you. I was trying to see if y'all got that.
I'm from a state to where, because of the drug activity in my state, they created a lot of these federal money laundering laws. So I don't think people understand this idea that we've been sold through rappers and entertainers is that there's a criminal pathway to legitimate business is false. Yeah. If you're involved in a level of criminality, once you get to a certain level, you're going to box yourself in. Yeah. So you just the best way is just never to do it. There's a lot that we've been taught by rappers is that I'm a hustle and then I'm going to start a rap label and then I'm going to turn, you're laundering money. So it's not going to work for you. So I just think we got to understand is that we bought a lot of these narratives about criminality that might have worked in 1935, but it won't work now. And the reason why they came after Al Capone wasn't tax evasion. It's because he was killing so many people. Yep. That's the real reason why they came after him. And they had to use tax evasion to lock him up. But the reason why they came after the guy is because he was killing so many people. They was cleaning people up there in Chicago.
Well, also when I was watching the documentary, it was like to them, it was like he was doing too much, even for the Italian folks standard. Like, hey, like yeah, we killed each other in Italy, but not like this. You know what I'm saying? Here's the thing, y'all. Even some of the stuff people are saying on social media right now, and I'm not naming no names, they're telling you money laundering is what they're telling you.
That's
and it's not right.
All these
Um,
so-called social media tax gurus,
we don't
investment
want we don't want
gurus.
we don't want
I ain't
those.
saying
We
no
don't want the
names. I ain't
smoke.
saying no names. I'm just saying that, they woke up today and now today they woke up yesterday, now today they're an expert.
For sure. And so what I want y'all to understand is like, um private money and private lending, like there's a reason it's all about our focus and our mindset, right? And I know y'all get tired of me talking about mindset on here, but I literally just finished watching and interviewing four white dudes who are like 19 to 24. They did for a year is to attend everybody's real estate little trainings. End of the year, worked with someone older, put a deal together, and raise money. Now you're gonna say, well, Erica, that's because they got time to be at these events. You got time too, right? It's all about the circle you immerse yourself with. There are people who have immersed themselves in these little real estate and credit groups. 3 years later, they got millions. So it's like, what is the exposure we're exposing these kids to, these neighborhoods to, these environments to? There was a Humans of New York. Everybody shared it, went viral. It was a black man. His mom was on drugs. The teacher tried, right? So the teacher didn't want to call because you don't want the kid to be put in the system. You want the kid to stay with the parents as long as possible. That made sense. But the teacher was like, this kid is gifted. He's debate. He can do this. And the teacher got a job at a private school in New York and was like, hey, I got him to give you a scholarship. He called this boy mama for 3 months in a row, trying to get him over there. And the boy thought, man, this teacher just left me behind. The teacher couldn't tell him, your mom has not responded to any of the stuff we need her to sign.
Yep.
He didn't want him to grow up hating his mother. So not only did this white teacher go above and beyond, trying to save this kid, trying to make sure he didn't get put in the system, didn't make sure he get taken out of his home, trying to make sure he could go with him to this place where he could live on campus in New York at this top prestigious school. And if he went there, he probably would have went to Harvard. We have an environment issue. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's only so much an outside force can do for your family. There's only so much a teacher can do. There's only so much the community can do. Like at some point in this conversation, the best thing, and the people are gonna hate me, the best thing is having two parents who work a job or have some type of income coming in consistently, and they spend time with you and pour into you.
Totally agree. I
Yep.
want to talk about a person real quick,
Sure, you got it.
who I feel's work we should actually be diving into.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu. Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu in 1985, 86, 87-ish
Mm-hmm.
wrote the Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked a lot about image. He talked a lot about culture. He
Mm-hmm.
talked about a lot of things that we need to do and be thinking about as it pertains to not only just raising Black boys, but raising Black families in general. So I would encourage everybody to check that out.
Definitely. And one thing I want to say is that we need to start looking at our people, Black people, as a resource in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody sees us as a resource to get what they want.
Mm-hmm.
We see each other as disposable and something that we should get away from. So everybody figures out, how can I use Black people to get what I want out of this world?
How to make money out of this.
And we don't see we don't see Black people as being that solution. So our job is to either feel like every Black person is disposable or just try to get the hell away from them. And I think that's why we have a lot of situations, because we don't know how to use our people as a positive resource. But everybody else has figured out how to use our people as a resource to get what they want. Either it might be negative to us, it's positive for them. And that's something we really don't think about.
This is the video that Mr. Ellis sent me. I'll definitely send it out there. I listen. If I had the money, I would take 20 Black folks, boys. I would train them in HVAC services. I'd help them all start companies and take over a city. I've seen Hispanic folks do
What
this in
age?
Austin.
What age?
It would have to be. It'd have to be. See, the problem is that's the problem. 20 to 21. Because that's when you start realizing, okay, the sports shit ain't gonna work. The college goofing off ain't gonna work. The tricking every night, going out smoking hookah every night ain't gonna work. I need some real money, right? There's, and I know it's a big gap in time from 15 to 21, where we lose a lot of folks. But I think we lose them before 15. But that's not the point. But I told Tim Jackson, I was like, if you could get 20 guys that want to go be appraisers, I'd pay for it. I'd figure out to raise a campaign to pay for it, because that's how the Asians are doing it. They come in, they just take over an area. They don't play this whole, well, if somebody want to do it, if they want to start a business, maybe. No. look, listen here. I'm gonna put you here. I'm gonna train you. I'm gonna send you to conferences. I have 3 cousins right now. We are sending them to conferences. We're training them up. Like, you ain't got to listen to your cousin Erica, but here, I'm gonna send you to this event.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think when you come back. Right? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I know I could get, if I could find a Tim Jackson or somebody like Tim Jackson, I could find people to put 20 people through something. Because when I was in North Carolina, I went to a private school. The Black Lawyers and Attorneys, Black Doctors and Attorneys Association put our whole private school through golf and tennis training. Like, they paid for lessons for a whole year. So it's depends on, and they did it because they said, well, you need this skill when you get older. And I'm thinking, we a bunch of kids at a private school. What we need this for? But in the long term, it did make sense because it did open up doors for 2 or 3 of the guys there at the school.
And it
I
also
just
gave you more exposure, right? I mean,
exposure. We
we
drove at
have
golf courts, all that stuff.
right. We have an exposure gap problem a lot of times because we can only see what we are, and we can't see beyond that into the possibilities a lot of times.
Yeah, look, there you go. After 21, they don't make no TikTok. I mean, I'm just telling you, like, there's so many, like, I'm not advocating for y'all to do this. Like, whatever I talk about or promote on the channel, please don't just go research. But I was talking about how Austin Community College, Dell, the company, Computer Dell, was paying for people to be network administrators. And when you got this free certificate, Dell would hire you on at 70, 80K a year. There were 4 black men off this channel, off YouTube, who moved here from New York, and one is from Connecticut. Didn't tell me, took the stuff, did the free stuff, got the job, and called me after.
Yeah.
Like, moved here with nothing. Now, I'm not telling you to pick up and move anywhere with nothing. Don't. The Erica channel has never promoted that. But like, the opportunities, I'm just sharing them because they're out here.
But I mean, I'll say this, right? I used to be what you were just talking about. I used to be a network administrator. I was A+ certified. I was a Microsoft certified engineer. And in like the late 90s and early 2000s, I was able to make $70,000-$80,000 a year with no college degree. And those jobs are still available now. Today. You can do self-study. There's programs out there. There's scholarships out there. We do have to say, listen, we got to take a little bit of agency. You got to get off your ass and on your feet and start moving, and take some initiative. But I know there are also some others of us who can't do that. They need an extra push, and I'm cool with that too. But like you said, Michael Sneed is doing it. You know, tech appliance techs making $500 a day. You can't beat that.
If you could get some of these, I'm telling you, like, 2 of my friends who are teachers saying, she's like, I'm losing them in 11th and 12th grade. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, if you can't show this Hispanic and black boy, and this is real bad in North Carolina, if you can't show this Hispanic and black boy how doing this gets you money in your pocket to do this, she's like, they tap out. They don't care about none of this. They just trying to coast through and get done. And she's like, you hurried up to finish this school to go work at Amazon down the street or go work at the packaging place doesn't make sense. Let me show you how if you do this, you can make more. This is why I'm saying, like, that's at this point, I've learned, I've read, I did all I want to do. I'm great on influencing people, but if I can, every little city, I can put 10 people through a program. I know you just take over cities like that. I've seen how you take over a city. I know that's what they do. Dave made a good point. Music glorifies the criminal lifestyle. Look at Rick Ross, a correction officer who swagger jacked a drug dealer and became a multimillionaire. Never sold an aspirin. Y'all, listen. That is the biggest, I believe most of these rappers are fake anyway, but that is the biggest, story of our life. 20 years from now, when they be like, he was a correction officer. Like this is how powerful photos and internet is.
Yep.
That they cleared all the photos of this man after the internet, and somebody still had one photo left. Like, it was a rumor, but somebody was like, nah, man, I work with that dude. I got a picture, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's how powerful this internet is. And that's why I'm gonna tell y'all, when you got young daughters and just young people, don't take pictures. Like, the pictures y'all taking, they out there in the internet ether forever. Somebody said HVAC school is free in Atlanta. I didn't know that. But is it stress to them? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Look, see right there. How much money would you need to get 20 kids trained in HVAC? I would fund that. I know in North Carolina has one of the fastest employed HVAC programs because they train people the fastest. I don't know if it's like a 4-month program or they do a real small condensed time, and people from Texas and all over pull people from North Carolina because the Greensboro College is like training them and getting them up out of there. So I'll figure it out. But there's stuff I want to do. That's why I said I love this YouTube stuff. It's all great, but there's like bigger level stuff I want to do outside this platform. Like,
I mean, we could build a fund for that, and we just pick 20, and we go to city, and we pick
yeah.
different high technical or high paying jobs, and we fund it. I'll be down for that.
So that's my big thing, and I just tell people I'm like, y'all, these agents they did a whole pipeline thing in the 80s where they filled up all them schools, UCLA and all that stuff. Every child applied, they just filled those schools up.
You know,
And now if you go to UCLA, you go to these colleges, that's all that's there. Like they literally just there's just a way to take over stuff. So okay, I don't want to keep you guys here all day. We've been here an hour and 20 minutes. I love y'all. The conversation, the chat is still growing. I appreciate everybody's comments. I really do. I'm not disrespecting your comments. It's just too many of them right now. All right. And we appreciate all of them. So yeah, Detroit still has free yeah, but again, it's almost like you have to market it to be cool. Does that make sense, y'all? You almost have to come into town and be like, yo, you gotta, do you want to make $100,000 this year? Come over here to HVAC school. And then you literally go out here and take, 100 folks and they're like, yeah, I'm doing this because so many other people are doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's the
You gotta
thing.
make it cool.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to show people, like you talked about, they can get what they want through that program. Because
Mm-hmm.
most of these young people think they can only get what they want through what's been promoted to them.
Mm-hmm.
They just really don't believe they can get the life that they want doing anything else except that. And then when that doesn't work, then their attitude is, well, we just gonna run the street.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll get more mods in here next time because y'all are wild in this chat and I can't delete everybody and some of the mods are missing some of it. So okay. All right, you guys. This is your girl Erica, Classy Clown Blog. Wrap it up, Diamond Dave. Tell us what you think is going to be the final outcome. Both of you guys, of course, but I'm gonna start with you, Diamond Dave. What's the final outcome of all this? Rounding folks up in Atlanta. What do you think is the outcome, and what are we gonna see coming from this?
I mean, in Atlanta, what you're seeing, in my opinion, is just a really big gentrification push. And so what they're looking is that they've, in the 90s, they got rid of a lot of the projects, pushed a lot of those people out in the city, the Riverdale, Jonesboro, things of that nature. They're now getting all of the really dense inner city areas that were non-project areas. They just want to get people out of there. And what I saw on YouTube was a list of crews that DA wanted to go after. And it pretty much was every crew that I knew that was in the city of Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So she has a list of crews she's going to just keep going after. And what they're trying to do is get certain agents out of the area so they can easily gentrify, because that land now is very, very desirable, especially everything around the Beltline. And I tell people, if you want to really understand what areas are really going to be popping in Atlanta, just look at the Beltline, and every area around there is the areas that are going to be really, really high in demand. That's why they built the Beltline up. So more gentrification, more mass incarceration. So I want to really encourage people to make sure that the young people that are in their life, they point them in the right direction so they don't become a solution for the problem of the mass incarceration system and the law enforcement system.
Gotcha. Mr. Ellis?
So I would largely agree. I can't speak to Atlanta, but I can definitely speak to what's going on around the country. I'm seeing the same thing. We're seeing gentrification happen. And again, it's a pattern. This happened 30, 40 years ago, and we saw big areas built up that were quote unquote poor areas, Black areas, and the new cycle is here again. So I would, again, encourage everybody to check out the work of Dr. Jawanza Kinjufu. Again, Dr. Jawanza Kinjufu.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be a statistic, y'all. Let's think above of what we've been doing already before.
Right. Somebody posted this. I'm telling you, there's so much power in learning to read. If you can read, man, the world is your oyster, right? A lot of folks out here watching, and not if you have dyslexia and issues like that. The world is not that the world is not your oyster, but once you can understand a system, a concept, boy, people can't take nothing from you. And I've seen people literally during this pandemic, business go under and they start a whole nother business because they already had the system and the concept. It don't matter. Like once you have the system and the concept, you understand how businesses work, how to put money in accounts. Like it's a wrap, right? So, whew. All right, you guys. Thank you for being here. I know this was a long one. I appreciate everybody being here. Y'all, they moving, y'all. You moving up out these cities as fast as possible. If you don't own anything in that city, they're not looking for you. Now you can come work in the city, but you ain't gonna live in the city. You have to determine. Reason I brought on Michael Steve, he created a job for his own son. His son has special needs, he's disabled. But instead of sending his son to go work at the mercy of Walmart or Target or Chick-fil-A, he created his own shop. And if you guys really understand where this future is going, if you look at several other countries, your kids didn't have a job unless you created one. Your family don't have a strong standing unless you have some ownership, whether it's land or a house or some type of way to make income. So, hopefully I see both you young men at the boat party. But if I don't, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming on the show. I'll see some more on this platform, and hopefully we'll kind of crack the pipe on how that's not even the word I want. We'll crack the code on this issue. Like, ignore that whole last part. We're gonna crack the code on this issue. So, anyways, thank you guys for being here. Where can they find you guys at? You guys didn't say your name of your social media handles. Got to say them.
Kamari, go ahead.
I'm the Finance Rebel everywhere. Finance Rebel, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. You can find me there.
You can find me YouTube, Diamond Dave, Instagram, Diamond_Dave.
Gotcha. All right. So you guys make sure you get those social media handles, and when I get their details, I'll put it in the description of the video and pin it at the top. You can always get their stuff pinned at the top comment. So thank you guys so much for your time today. I appreciate you. This is Erica Williams, Classy Con Vlog. Make sure you check out Diamond Dave's video. He's about to go live on something real juicy today. I think you'll enjoy it. Later.